everyone, and welcome to our Friday, August 3rd, 2012 edition of Trading Software Demonstration. My name is Jason Galano. I'm an account manager, sales and support representative with the company. I've been with the company for 5 years now. We're going to talk about MetaTrader 4 today, the ins and outs of it. So it's going to be a good class. Before we get going, I just want to briefly mention our disclaimer. Our disclaimer is that we do not give buy, sell, or hold recommendations, and that trading is risky. You want to make sure that you're trading only with risk capital that will not affect your lifestyle. And also that the information contained herein is meant to be for educational purposes only and is not meant to construe any type of trading advice. So now I'm going to transition over to the MT4. Bear with me just a second. Okay. All right, so we have our MetaTrader 4 platform here right now. This is what it's going to look like when you first open up a demo or live account. So basically what you have is you have your charts on the right, and you have your market watch window in the upper left-hand corner. So the market watch window, if we just expand this a little bit over to the right, that is where all of your currency pairs as well as the bid and ask quotes will be. So as we can see here, the dollar Swiss, you'll have bid and ask quotes for that. You'll have the pound dollar right here, bid and ask quotes for that. Euro dollar, bid and ask quotes for that. And dollar yen over here, so on and so forth with every currency pair down the list. So that's where you go to reference all of the quote information for any of the pairs. And then underneath that you have the navigator window, which will basically show you any sort of accounts that you have open. Right now I have 2 demos. We're working with the second one here, so let's just go ahead and delete this one. You can delete any account just by right-clicking on it and then clicking the delete button and saying yes. But secondly, in the navigator window, you're going to see a list of all the indicators, and we're going to get into that later as I start talking about charts. But the terminal window is probably the most important window in the entire platform because it'll show you what's currently going on with your account. If you click on the trade tab, that's going to show you what's going on with the account right at this moment. So if there's any open trades there, you will see them all in this little window. And the account history will show you everything that's taken place already in the account. It'll show you all the open and closed transactions. So if you ever need to reference your account history, all the tickets or whatnot that you've opened up or closed, you can always reference this. So, and then you have your 4 charts that are opened up as a default right here. You can customize this section any way you want. What I like to have is I like to have 1 chart open. So let's just close the other 3. You can close a chart just by clicking the X button in the upper right-hand corner of each one. Nice and simple. And here we are. Okay. So let's first go over how to place an order in this platform. There's 2 distinct ways to place an order in the MT4 platform, and the way I like to do it is just double click. If you in your market watch window in the upper left hand corner, all you have to do is double click on the currency pair that you want to trade. Say for example, if we want to trade the euro dollar, we can just simply double click on the euro dollar, and the order ticket that comes up will automatically default to euro dollar. Another method, well, the other way, is to simply click the new order button at the top of the screen. But that won't always default you to the pair that you want to trade. So if you find that it doesn't, you can simply click the pair that you want to trade up here in the symbol box. So let's move this over to the center so everybody can get a nice look at it. So basically, once you have this order ticket open, this is where the real fun begins. This is where you start to customize the specifics of your trade. You've got the volume right here, where that'll let you input your desired lot size. Just for clarification's sake, 1.00 will represent a standard lot, which is 100,000 units of the base currency. If we wanted to trade instead a mini lot, we can type in 0.10, and that mini lot is of course only 10,000 units of the base currency. And last but not least, the smallest available lot size with FXDD would be a micro lot. So if you wanted to trade a micro lot, which would be only 1,000 units of the base currency, you can type in 0.01. For this example, we're just going to use a standard lot. So placing an order from here is as simple as just leaving it on instant execution, entering a stop loss value over here if you want, or a take profit value here if you want, and then just clicking buy or sell. For this example, we'll just click the buy button. And once we click the buy button, here it is. You've got your confirmation, and from there you can just click OK to get rid of the order ticket. So as I alluded to previously, you've basically got the trade down here in your trade tab. So from left to right, let's start going over the specifics so that everybody's just clear exactly what they're looking at. So for every trade, you will see the following columns from left to right. You'll see the order number on the left side, and that will tell you, the order number is just an arbitrary number that's assigned to each individual ticket. So if you have a live account and you have a question about a specific trade, you can always call our customer support team and give them your account number and this specific ticket number, and they'll be more than happy to look into the trade for you. So again, it's an arbitrary number, no rhyme or reason behind it, just to reference each individual ticket. So all the way on, the next column over is the time column. Time column will show you what time you place the trade. So right now you can see that we placed this trade on August 3rd, 2012 at 20:07. Now you might be wondering to yourself what 20:07 is. It may not necessarily relate to your time zone wherever you are. And that's a good question. So I'll elaborate. The MT4 platform operates in MetaTrader time. MetaTrader time is 7 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time, and that's irregardless of daylight savings time. So if you ever want to figure out what time it is in MetaTrader time, and say, if you're, all you do is you take the Eastern Standard Time and you add 7 hours to it. And that's in accordance with generally accepted Forex market principles. You might be wondering to yourself, why MetaTrader time? Why this specific time? Well, common sense would tell you that if the Forex market opens on Sunday at 5 p.m., it makes sense to just call that 0 hour. So what you'll notice is that at every day at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, the clock will reset back to 0. So that's when you'll know that you're in the new day, and you'll also see the date move forward. So say if you're in New York, for example, like we are, at 5 p.m. you will see this. You will see MetaTrader time revert back to 0, and there will be a 7-hour time period where MetaTrader time is ahead, 1 day in relation to Eastern Standard Time. So say, for example, if it's 6 p.m. Eastern Time, the MetaTrader time on the 2nd, the MetaTrader time would show 1 o'clock on the 3rd. So if anybody has any questions about that, I know it can be confusing, especially if you're new to MT4, give us a call. One of our support representatives will be happy to explain that for you. But getting back to what I was saying, this is the opening time. This is the time that you open the trade. So next over, we have the type column. This is going to show you whether you bought or sold. We bought, so obviously it's going to say buy. The size is going to show you your lot size. We traded one standard lot, thus it says 1.00. And in the symbol column, it's going to show you the pair. So obviously we traded euro dollar, so you've got euro USD right here. And then next over to the right is the price that we entered the trade at. So what this is telling us is that we bought euro dollar when it was worth 1.23769. So basically, then the next column over, we have our stop loss. We didn't put a stop loss, if you recall, so that's going to show 0.0000. And then you've got the take profit column as well. We didn't place a take profit right from the outset, so that's also going to say 0.00. And then lastly, you've got your price on the right over here. This is the current market price, and just so that you are aware, this price will correspond to, if you're buying, like we just did, this price will correspond to the bid price that you see in the upper left-hand corner over here in the Market Watch window. It will not correspond to the ask price. Reason being is because when you buy, you need to close the trade at the bid price because you are selling it back. In case anybody needs a refresher, the ask price is for buying. It's the price that you can currently buy the currency pair at. Bid price is the price where you can currently sell. So we already bought, so the only way to get out of this trade is to sell the currency pair back. And this is going to tell you, this bid price, where you can currently sell it at. So this price over here will match up to this bid price. It would be the opposite if we sold. If we sell, then we're going to sell at the bid price first, and then we need to buy it back. Buying it back is the only way to get out of the trade. So we're going to, if we sold instead, this column over here would correspond to the ask price rather than the bid price. So this would be equal to this. But for right now, since we bought, it's going to correspond to this bid price. Commission will say 0 because MT4, there is no commission aside from the bid-ask spread. And the swap is the rollover. So basically, for all those that are unfamiliar with rollover, give us a call, send us an email to sales@fxdd.com. One of our reps will be more than happy to explain the concept of rollover to you. But this is where the rollover will show if you leave a position open at 5 p.m. Eastern or 0 MetaTrader time. And then last, you've got your profit column on the right, and this is by default shown in dollars. This is a dollar-based account. If we want to have it shown in pips, we can right-click on the profit, just the dollar amount, if you will, and then click on the scroll over to the profit column, and you can get it displayed as points. So some traders may prefer that. I personally prefer looking at the dollar amount. So that takes care of everything on top. This is, every single trade that you place will show each and every one of these columns. So let's look at the bottom line numbers. The bottom line numbers will show you just the big picture of what's going on in your account. It's highlighted in this gray bar. And from left to right, let's go through those as well. So you've got your balance on the left. That is going to show you the hard cash that's in your account. We started this demo account off with 5,000 demo dollars, if you will. So that's going to show 5,000. The equity, however, is arguably the more important number, especially when you have trades open. And the reason being is because it shows you the current value of your account with open trades included. Since there's no way to get out of a trade other than to close it and either take profit or take a loss or take neither, basically the equity is showing you that if you close this trade, this is what your account value would be right now. And it's a product of, well, not a product, it's basically it's your balance plus or minus this profit on the right over here. So we can easily see, it is changing every second, but hopefully we'll catch it right here. This $10 plus this 5,000 equals this 5,010. So it's saying if we were to close this trade right now, the value of our account would be 5,010. And then next, and this will obviously fluctuate as your positions fluctuate. They go up and down, up and down. The margin is also very important, and it's useful to know how to calculate margin. So I'm going to get into that in just a minute. But margin, just let me explain it as a concept first. Margin, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, margin is basically the collateral that you are putting aside to keep a certain trade open. You don't think of it as a charge because it's not a charge. You're going to get the money back as soon as you close the trade. But for the time being, you can't touch this money because it's being used as collateral to keep this trade open. Now, the next question for those of you who are unfamiliar with margin and how it works is how do we go about calculating what the margin is? mean, it's not just a number that's plucked out of thin air. Let's be serious. So, how do we calculate this margin amount? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at that. I have in our notes section over here. We've got several formulas written out over here, but I'm going to go ahead and just explain the margin. Formula for margin is contract value in US dollars divided by leverage. So what does that mean? That means that we first have to take our contract value, and if it's not in dollars, we have to first convert it to dollars before we do anything. So let's go back to our MT4. Okay, so if we go back to our MT4, what is it? What can we see? What exactly are we trading here? What we're trading is, if a standard lot is defined as 100,000 units of the base currency, basically what that means is that we're trading 100,000 euros because the base currency is the first currency in the pair. So if we know that we're trading 100,000 euros, we can't exactly proceed with calculating the margin just yet because we don't know how many dollars we're trading. So if we want to figure out how many dollars we're trading for this specific pair, what do we have to do? And, audience participation is encouraged, so if you know the answer, go ahead and put it in the chat box, but I'm going to go along and explain it. So basically, what we would do is we would take, if we know that if the euro-dollar pair is telling us that 1 euro is worth this many dollars, that's how a quote is generally all the time. That's how a quote is read. If it's one unit of the base currency is X units of the counter currency. So if we know that 1 euro is worth this amount of US dollars, how do we figure out how much 100,000 euros are worth? Well, it's easy. All we do is we take 100,000, which is our lot size, and we multiply it by this price, and that will give us our contract value in US dollars. So just by looking at this specific example right here, just by doing the math in my head, we'll just be able to come up with $123,769 is the amount that we're trading. So if we go back to our formula over here, all we would have to do is because now we know the contract value in US dollars, and this demo account was open with 50 to 1 leverage, which is the maximum for any US broker in the United States, well, of any Forex broker in the United States, should I say. You basically take the contract value in dollars and divide that by 50. So if we were to basically do, if we were to basically do 123,769 divided by 50, it will yield this amount. Now, it's not always that complicated. For the dollar-based pairs, for example, what does that mean? If we're trading, let's say if this was dollar-yen instead, if we're trading 100,000 dollar-yen, one standard lot of dollar-yen, what does that mean? Basically, what's the base currency? The base currency is dollars already. So do we even need to convert? No, we don't. We have to just take $100,000 and divide it by 50, and that will yield a straight $2,000. So that's basically how you calculate margin. It's just the contract value in US dollars divided by your leverage. So if anybody has any questions about that, please feel free to contact our support team. We'll be more than happy to go over that with you again if you need more assistance. So let's go ahead and move along to free margin. So the free margin on the right over here, basically the way you calculate that is it's equity minus margin. So let me go ahead and refer back to the notes. Here it is right here, free margin equals equity minus margin for those of you that are taking notes on your side. Okay. So basically, you take, the way that we arrive at this number is we do equity minus margin. So 49.85 minus 24.75. That's going to yield us with just about $2,500. Now, why is free margin significant? Why should you care about what the free margin is? Simple, because the free margin will tell you how much money you currently have left over to put towards more trades. Because if you think about it this way, if the equity is the amount of money that you have left in, is your overall account value at the time, and that's the balance plus or minus this profit. That tells you what your account value is at this very moment. If you know that, but you also know that this much is being tied up in margin, this 24.75, so you can't touch it, it makes sense to say the difference between the two is what you have left over to place more trades. So the free margin is also very important because you definitely want to keep an eye on it to make sure that you have enough money to place the trade that you want to place. See, if we wanted to place another standard lot, we'd be cutting it very, very close. We'd risk getting liquidated because if we already know that one standard lot is 24.75 in margin, we only have 24.96 left in free margin, so we'd be cutting it very, very close. So make sure that you always keep an eye on that free margin, and especially when you want to place a new trade. And this obviously will fluctuate as your equity fluctuates, and that will fluctuate in turn when the profit or loss fluctuates. The margin, by contrast, will just stay the same, unless you close trades or you close parts of trades, so on and so forth. So then we've also got the margin level. This is arguably the most important number in this section, in the lower, in the bottom line numbers. So what is the margin level? First of all, how do we calculate it? Let's go back to our note page. Margin level is equity divided by margin multiplied by 100 to get that percentage. So I'll highlight that, and we'll leave it up there for a minute, just in case anybody wants to copy it down. Okay, so let's go back to our MetaTrader. Okay. So what is this margin level telling you? Now that you know how to calculate it, it's equity divided by margin times 100 to get a percentage. What is it telling us? It's telling us how close the equity is to the margin. And why is this important? Because when the equity meets the margin, you get liquidated. What does liquidation mean? Liquidation means that we close all of your open trades to prevent further losses in the account. It's definitely not the most pleasant thing to experience as a Forex trader, and it's something that you want to avoid pretty much at all costs. It is there to protect you, to make sure that, you don't lose too much on any specific trade, and that, it's there to help ensure that you're always left with funds in the account. But, it's still, nevertheless, it's not a good thing to experience. Nobody wants to have their trades closed without their permission. But bear in mind that that's how FXDD policy functions, and that when this number drops to 100%, if it's equity divided by margin and times 100, simple math will tell you that if the equity and the margin are the same, which they would have to be if the equity drops down to the margin, and you divide the same number by the same number, that's 1. If you multiply that by 100, that's your 100%. So you always want to make sure that this number is as far above 100% as it could possibly be. Because when it drops to 100%, that's when liquidation occurs. If anybody has any questions about that, and I do stress that you understand that as much as possible before you open up a live account. If anybody has any questions about that, contact our support team. We'd be more than happy to explain it for you. So, now that we understand everything that's going on in the terminal window, let's say if we wanted to close this trade, or let's say before we even get into that, let's say if we wanted to add a stop loss or a take profit to this trade. Adding a stop loss would always be a good idea because it would help to ensure that you don't get liquidated, especially, provided that you set it up at a level where you wouldn't have been liquidated anyway. So if we want to add a stop loss to an existing order, we just have to right click on it and then click modify or delete order. Again, we'll do it one more time. Right click on the trade and then click modify or delete order. And that's going to bring us up the old familiar order ticket. And if you see the stop loss column on the bottom left here, which you should, it'll let you enter your stop loss price. Let's say if we didn't want to close this trade until the market went down to 1.2370. My apologies. Let's do it. If it drops to 1.2300. Let's click the modify button. Actually, let's also add a take profit while we're at it. Let's say if we wanted to close this trade, and again, this is for demonstration purposes only. Let's go ahead and let's close the trade if and when it reaches 1.2476. Again, these numbers aren't realistic, especially if you're practicing risk management, but again, this is just for demonstration purposes. So if we click the modify button, here we have it. We have our stop loss here. We have our take profit here. Whereas previously they were zero, now they actually have a value attached to them. If we ever wanted to modify it again, it's as simple as right-clicking and modify or delete order. And here it is. We can just, let's say if we wanted to delete them all together. All you got to do is click here and backspace, so you have nothing but zeros left over, and you've got your modify button ready to be clicked. And we click OK, and here it is. Now we've got nothing left. So let's say if we wanted to close this trade on our own, not through a stop loss or a take profit. Now this is very important, so I definitely want everybody to pay attention here. Let's right-click on the trade once again, and naturally you would just click close order. Now we've got our ticket up. Now, I can't emphasize this enough. If you're in a buy position, do not click sell. If you're in a sell position, do not click buy. Don't go in the opposite direction because the MT4 is a ticket-based platform. It will allow you to open up trades in opposite directions for the same currency pair. So to avoid this, it's very simple. Just click the yellow close button underneath sell and buy, and that will close the trade for you. And there it is. It's gone. And as I mentioned previously, in the account history window, that's where you will see your profit and loss on the trade. You'll see in the account history window that the trade has been opened and closed. It'll show you the close time on the right over here as well as the price that you closed it at, as well as your profit or loss amount. In this case, we took an $81 loss. So that pretty much sums up the terminal window as well as opening and opening or closing instant execution orders. So let's go to pending orders. Let's say if you don't necessarily want to open a trade right now at this time, at the current market price. Let's say that we wanted to place a trade only if the market reached a certain price in the future. What do we do instead? Well, let's go back to the beginning. Let's say we're going to use euro-dollar as an example. Let's double click, and instead of choosing instant execution, we'll choose pending order. Now, there's 4 different types of pending orders because there's 2 different types of orders, buy or sell, and there's two different directions that the market could move in before you buy or sell. So 2 times 2 yields 4. And here they all are. You've got buy limit, sell limit, buy stop, and sell stop. A buy limit order, and it's important that you don't get these confused, because if you don't place the right one, the system will not accept it. So buy limit is an order to get into the market, well, in order to buy, should I say, when the market drops to a certain price. Again, that's an order to get into, to buy when the market drops to a certain price, when the market drops to a certain price. So let's say if the market is currently at 1.2370, but we don't want to buy if and when, if or when the market drops to 1.2300. We can enter our price of 1.2300 right here, and then click the place button. And there it is, we have our buy limit. And it's going to appear underneath the gray line because it's not an open order yet. If and when it becomes an open order, you'll see it immediately. You'll see the buy limit disappear, and you will see a buy show up on top of the gray line. So let's go ahead and delete this. If we want to delete a pending order, just right-click on it and then click the delete, modify or delete order. And if we want to modify it, we can always do that by we can change the price here. Let's say if we've changed our mind, we wanted to just we wanted to buy if the market dropped to 2310 instead, we could click the modify. We could enter our new price of 2310 and then click the modify button, or we could just click the delete button if we want to delete it. In this case, we're just going to delete it. And there it is, it's gone. And I'll take you one by one through each of the other 4 options. We also have a buy stop. Now, a buy stop is an order to buy when the market rises to a certain price. Again, I'll say it one more time. It's an order to buy when the market rises to a certain price. So let's say that we don't want to buy euro dollar until the price moves up to 1.2430, let's say. We can enter our buy stop price, 1.2430, and then click the place button. And there it is. Now we will not buy until the price goes up to 1.2430. So let's go ahead and delete this and move on to the other 2. Now the sell options. We've got a sell stop. Now a sell stop is an order to sell when the market drops to a certain price. Again, I'll say it one more time. It's an order to sell when the market drops to a certain price. So let's say if we don't want to sell until the market drops to 1.2300. We can put in our sell stop price of 1.2300, click the place button, and there it is. Right click and then delete it. And last but not least, there is a sell limit. A sell limit is an order to sell when the market rises to a certain price. I'll say it one more time. It's an order to sell when the market rises to a certain price. So let's say if we didn't want to sell unless the market went up to 1.2430. We can type in 1.2430 and then click the place button. One other thing that's noteworthy to mention is you can add a stop loss or a take profit to a pending order as well. You can right click and click the modify or delete order button. So if you want to do it all in one shot, specify your entry price, your stop loss price if it gets executed, and your take profit price if it gets executed all in one shot, you certainly do have that option. So you could just enter it here and then click the modify button. But for now, we're just going to delete this. Again, if anybody has any questions at all about pending orders, if they're, if you're confused about what direction each option is, because if you put like I said before, if you put the wrong option in, the system won't take it. If you need clarification on that, contact our customer support team. That's what they're here for. They'll be glad to help you out. So very briefly, then, that pretty much takes care of orders and order placement. So we're going to briefly go through the chart functions in the MT4 platform then. Now, like I said, we had 4 charts when we first opened up this platform, but we're going to just work with 1 here. So, first of all, well, instead of working with 1, why don't I show you how to open up a new chart first? Let's say if you want to work with 2 instead of 1. Let's go ahead and click File, and then New Chart. And then that will list all of the currency pairs. Let's say we want to open up another Euro-Dollar chart. We can just click the Euro-Dollar button. And there it is. Now we have 2 charts for Euro-Dollar. Let's go ahead. Let's go crazy and open up a 3rd one while we're at it. Let's click File, New Chart, and then Euro-Dollar. So now we have 3 Euro-Dollar charts. Now, the way that I have them displayed is just they're going to show only one at a time, because I find that to be the easiest way to look at a chart. So there's tabs on the bottom. It'll let you toggle back and forth between each chart that you open. So if we click in the lower left-hand corner right here, this is the first chart that we have open. Let's just work with this one for the time being. So now, you're going to see these toolbars up here. And these toolbars definitely do come in handy. You can think of these as your shortcuts to modify the charts that you have open. So basically, you've got these toolbars right here. These will let you decide, this will let you choose whether you want a bar chart, candlesticks, or a line chart. So if you want to choose bar chart, for example, click this button. It'll change the chart to a bar chart for you. If you want candlesticks, which is what most Forex traders use, click the candlestick button. If you want a line chart, go ahead and click line chart. And there it is. We'll leave it on candlesticks for now. But next, over to your right, you've got the plus and minus magnifying glasses. Those are your zoom in and zoom out buttons. So if we wanted to zoom out, click the magnifying glass with the minus sign in it, or click the plus sign to zoom in. Now, auto scroll. This is a very important feature right here. Let's say if you want to scroll back in time, to take a look at a candle from a couple of days ago. It would really be helpful if the chart stayed where you left it, right? Well, guess what? If you don't have auto scroll enabled, well, if you do have auto scroll enabled, then it will automatically take you back to the beginning after a couple of seconds. And that can be very, very frustrating as a Forex trader if you're trying to get information on a candle. So quite simply, if you want to scroll back to a specific point and have the chart just stay there, just deselect auto scroll. And as you can see right here, I'm scrolling back in time just by clicking my left mouse button and dragging my mouse to the right, and that will it's staying there. Now, if you ever want to return back, just click the auto scroll button, and it's automatically going to bring you back to the very most recent candle. Now, the other thing right here next to auto scroll is the chart shift function. If we want to shift the chart out a little bit, which is what I like to do normally, so let's go ahead and click it. This will leave you some space between the last candle and the very rightmost bar, which shows you the price. Well, I guess you could call it the y-axis. So I like to have the chart set up this way because it leaves me room to just kind of anticipate and see what's going on. Whereas if you have it all the way on the right over here, you're just kind of, there's not a lot of space to view what's going on. So I like to have it. I like to enable the chart shift, but whatever floats your boat as a forex trader. So if we want to add an indicator, we can either just do it like through here. This actually has them broken up by categories for you, so you can choose whichever one you want. Let's say if we want to put some Bollinger Bands on here, all you do is scroll down to the trend indicators and select Bollinger Bands, and then a little box will pop up, and you click, you modify your parameters, and you click the OK button, and there's your Bollinger Bands. So the other way to do that is you click the, you can also do it from the navigator window, like I was telling you before. Let's say if we want to throw a parabolic SAR on here. Scroll. This won't have them broken up by category. This will simply list them in alphabetical order. So we're going to click and hold down our left mouse button and then drag it to the right and let go. We can modify our parameters if we want. When we're done, we'll click OK. And there it is. Now we have two indicators. We actually have three indicators because we started this one off with a moving average. So that's how you add indicators to a chart. Through here or through here. So here's another thing. And right underneath you'll see the different category, the different periodicities for the charts. You can select a 1 minute, a 5 minute, 15 minute, 30 minute, 1 hour, 4 hour, daily, weekly, and monthly, chart. And you can also select them from here. Now, if we ever wanted to delete something or modify the chart itself, the color scheme, all you have to do is right-click on the chart. Well, actually, before we get into that, there's a whole other toolbar over here that I didn't neglect to mention. This is the drawing toolbar. You can draw a vertical line over here just by clicking down on here and then just determining where you want the vertical line and then drop it on there. Just click your left mouse button and there it'll be. If you ever decide that you want to move it, just double click on it, wait for the bar, the little, the white squares to show up on top and bottom, and then that'll let you know that it's selected, and you can click and hold your left mouse button and move it over and drop it wherever you want. Horizontal lines, the same thing. Click and hold, let go where you want. Trend lines, this won't be to scale by any means, but it's just an illustration. Equidistant channels. Fibonacci retracements. We've built up quite a bit of clutter already, so let's start getting rid of stuff. The way we get rid of anything on a chart is we'll right-click on the chart. Now, if it's an object that's not an indicator, everything that I just drew on here is not an indicator. It's just an object. So if we go to Objects List, it'll let you delete each and every one by one. You just select it, make sure there's a check mark next to it, click the Delete button, and every one of them will disappear. Now, if we want to do the same thing with indicators, just right-click on here, go to Indicators List, click whichever one it is you want to delete it, delete them all one by one, and there we go. Now we have nothing but a blank chart. Now, there's a couple of other options that I'll go through if you want to right-click and to see how you can modify the chart. You can actually get rid of the grid if you want. I personally find that the grid is a little bit distracting. You click grid, it'll just show you a blank, it'll just show you a black background. If you ever want to re-enable the grid, just right-click and click grid. Now, last but not least, if we right-click one more time and then go to Properties, it'll bring up two tabs. It'll bring up a Colors tab, which will allow you to customize the color of any sort of object on the chart. You can customize the background, foreground, grid, bar up, bar down, etc., etc. or you could reset it to the default if you find that, what you selected doesn't really work out for you. Then you've got the common tab on the right. Now, one thing that I would definitely recommend that you do is show the ask line. Click Show Ask Line and then click OK. You'll see both prices on the chart. It's good to mention, it's beneficial to mention that on the MT4 platform, by default, you're only seeing the bid line. And that's really not helpful for when you want to, monitor the ask price, because more often than not, for half the trade, you're going to have to monitor the ask price, whether you sell at the bid and then buy it back at the ask, or you buy at the ask price and sell it back at the bid. It helps to have both prices on here. So this will let you efficiently monitor each one. Ask line will be in red, it'll be on the top, and the bid line will be in gray and it'll be on the bottom. And that's pretty much going to take us to the end. I want to thank everybody for being here. Again, if anybody has any questions, I'm going to post the if anybody has any questions, they can give us a call. Number here is 212-437-8008. And you can also send an email to salesteam@fxdd.com. One of us will be happy to assist you. Thank you very much for being here. Have a good night, everybody.